Good evening and welcome to Correro, the program where we critically examine the issues shaping national governance, development, and the future of our society. My name is Godwin Sunday. Tonight, we focus on one of the most important pillars of sustainable development, education, and more specifically, girl child education in Africa. Well, the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals are set 2030 as the target year to achieve inclusive and equitable quality education for all. Yet, across Africa, millions of girls remain out of school due to poverty, early marriage, insecurity, cultural barriers, and poor infrastructure. The ripple effects are enormous, from limited career opportunities and generational cycles of poverty to broader national challenges in productivity and growth. But there is also hope. Studies shows that when girls are educated, societies benefit, maternal mortality declines, household income improves, and the prospects for national development expand. As the 2030 deadline draws closer, it's time to ask, how far have we really come in achieving the SDG for the African girl child? And what must be done differently to ensure real impact? To help us unpack this is Caleb Daladi, a humanitarian policy expert. But before we delve into this, we'll take a short break now. And when we return, we will look at all of this conversation critically. After this break, please stay with us. Welcome back. Well, it's a delight to have you join me on Correro tonight, Danladi.
Good evening, viewers, and thank you very much for having me in this program.
All right, so let's delve into the conversation right away. As we move closer to 2030, how will you assess Africans' overall progress on girl child education? Are we still on track to meet the SDG 4 target on inclusive, equitable, and quality education for girls?
Okay, this is a very important question that you ask. I think before I dive into this question, it's very, very important for us to identify the root cause of the issue of girls' child education. What are the challenges that the girls' child education are passing through, especially in African context? So first of all, we have to look at the issue of poverty, which is one of the reasons why girls don't go to school. And there's a stereotype in the community that most of the local parents and cultural norms prefer to educate the boy child as against girl child. They believe that the girl should be able to work to help in household jobs while the boys go to school. So this stereotype is one of the reasons why we have high number of girls when it comes to out of school. Another issue is about insecurity. Let's assume the girl grew up in an area where there are a lot of insecurity. She will not feel safe going to school. She rather remain at home. In most instances, they trek for distance in rural areas, and they can be raped, they can be attacked. So they decide to stay back at home. Another crucial issue has to do with their menstrual hygiene. In most of the schools, they don't have infrastructure like the toilets. So when the girl is in her menstrual cycle, she feels uncomfortable to go to school because those facilities are not there. So you can imagine how many days does she lose her schools. For instance, if exam is ongoing and she's on her menstrual cycle, that means she's going to lose school and she's going to miss exams, and that will make her to drop out of school. Those are some of the reasons. Another issue has to do with the issue of child labor. We have to look crucial into child labor. A lot of children have been taken to urban areas to work, to earn. So those are the challenges. Now let's look at the SDGs. How has the SDGs addressed? Very important. If you educate a girl, you are breaking a generational cycle of poverty, which everyone knows. If you educate a girl, she will have the education to be able to train her own children about the importance of education, and how children will train the next offspring. So you can imagine you are breaking the generation issue when it comes to out of school children. So it's very important. That means, according to United Nations, for any year the girl had in school, her earning increased by more than 20%. So you are addressing SDG 1 first, which has to do with poverty. Very, very important, because SDG 1 has to do with poverty, no poverty. So if you educate a child, if you educate a girl child, you are addressing the issue of poverty, because she will be able to earn from her salary. She will be able to understand how to do businesses. Let's move to SDG 3 now, because we are talking about SDGs now. It has to do with health and well-being. When you educate a girl child, she will have an idea on menstrual hygiene, which is very crucial. She will understand the nutrition that is needed for her kids, which is important. She will know how to protect herself from communicable disease, i.e. like HIV. Because if you are not educated, you doesn't know that there is prevention aspect when it comes to HIV, or when a mother is pregnant and she has HIV. So an educated girl will be able to know that there are drugs, or there are certain precautions that she will take to avoid mother-to-child transmission, which is important. When you educate a girl child, she understands when her children need to take vaccines. She understands the nutritional value. What will that do is going to reduce maternal mortality rate. And today we are looking at dropping the maternal mortality rate to 0. So it's very, very important. You are addressing SDG 3. Let's look at the most important question you asked me about quality education, which is very, very crucial, the SDG 4, inclusive education. We are not yet there yet. A lot of efforts have to be made when it comes to quality education. Even though the government has done a lot, there has been political will. Let's take, for instance, in the case of our dear country today, if you look at from the UBEC policies, where there's a free primary education for children, it shows a political will from the government. There's also safe school initiatives, the Child Rights Act of 2003. There's also the Renew Hope agenda. They have the school feeding program. The school feeding program is a very good initiative, because if I'm a child and I'm poor, and I believe that if I go to school, I'll eat, definitely will go to school. And it's going to increase the rate of enrollment in schools. The statistics is there, the number have actually increased. But above all, the government alone cannot do it. The private sectors have to come in, and the religious leaders and traditional leaders that have the highest number of followers have a key role to play.
All right, so before we get to that point of advocating for traditional rulers and governments to come into this space right now, the number of out-of-school children keeps rising on a yearly basis, even in Africa, which brings us back to the SDG goal, like you've mentioned, the target for SDG 4 at this point in time. Are we really on track as it stands right now to achieve the SDG goals come 2030 as a people, taking it from Nigeria to the entire 6 geopolitical zones and now traveling to Africa as a whole? Are we ready? Are we still on track when the number of out-of-school children keeps increasing on a yearly basis?
Okay, this is an interesting question. So if you say, are we on track? On one part, I will say yes. On the other part, I will say no. I will explain to you in details. Yes, we are on track because there has been political will from the government, from the non-governmental organizations to raise awareness about the importance of girl-child education. Yet, the number keep rising. And there are a lot of reasons, because if you are suffering from headache today, you can't just treat malaria. You have to find out what is wrong. You might probably be suffering from local stress, or even you are suffering from typhoid. So you have to identify the root cause of the problem. In order to us to address the issue of out-of-school children, the most important aspect is identifying the root cause. Why do we have this high number of out-of-school children?
Yearly.
Yes. Then let's look at the region. Which region is it? Is it from the north? Is it from the south? Is it from the east? Is it from the west? Once you have identified that region, then you carry out a need assessment to find out why is it that children from this particular geopolitical zone don't go to school or they are dropping out of school. There must be a reason. So if there must be a reason, for instance, if it is conflict, then we have to address the issue of insecurity. Without addressing the issue of insecurity, then the issue of out-of-school children will still linger. If it is about poverty, then we have to address the issue of poverty first before you can be able to have a high number of students being enrolled. If it is something that have to do with a stereotype from the cultural or religious norm, then we also have to look into that. So for us to meet the 2030 agenda, I think all hands must be on deck. The reason I said, yes, we are on track on one part and we are not on track on another part is a sort of crossroad, because on another part, the government are doing their best. On another part, there are issues that need to be addressed, which is very, very important. So if we are able to address most of these issues, if we are able to dig the root cause of out-of-school children, I believe the issue of out-of-school children will be a theme of the past. But if we keep saying, oh, let me come and organize advocacy today and tell the children the importance of going to school, yes, everybody will come and listen. You are going to speak to them like a motivational speaker. But the root cause you are not addressing it. We have to go back to basics. Why is it that, let me give you, for instance, if we have children, let's say in Garki today, they are not going to school, we need to come to Garki and find out. Why is it that children...
So invariably you're saying that we are not addressing the root cause. That means, that is, are we on track or we've left?
We are on track. What I mean, we are on track. Because
with the rising number of children.
When the population is rising every day.
We are seeing more children, especially the girl's child,
yes,
engaging in underage marriage. We're seeing cultural practices that undermine a government's effort even to come and ensure that we even arrive at this point, even staying on track. So you have been on the field and you've been following all of this conversation. I'm curious at this point, are we on track? If the number of young girls that are getting pregnant right now in rural communities keep getting high, and young girls that are leaving, running away from their homes keep rising on a yearly basis. The statistics shows that out-of-school children in Nigeria right now alone, outside other African countries, is very alarming.
Yes.
With all of this, can we still achieve the goal of 2030 as the SDG goal for 2030? Is it possible with Nigeria? Or then, is it at variance? Does this goal even align with our vision, even our cultural values?
So that's a very important question. Let's look at the issue of illegal child marriage, right? The government, for instance, have provided a platform for children to go to school, free education. And then the advocacy is there. But you as a parent, you refuse to send your children to school. Who is to be blamed? Is it the government or the parent? Because the platform is there, the platform has been provided. And then do we need to employ special marshals that will go around to ensure that all these children that are not going to school are going to be arrested? No. The advocacy is there. The government has done their part, even though more needs to be done. But the parents themselves, it has to start from home. The parents themselves have to do more. They have to understand the importance of child education. That's why we started with the issue of education. So education is the key. If you're an illiterate, you don't understand the issue of child education, how will you be able to put your children in school? So it goes beyond children. It goes to the parents themselves. When the parent is not educated, he doesn't understand the importance of education. How will he educate a child? But to meet with a target of 2030, is it achievable? It's a bit difficult because 2030 is around the corner and the number is rising. Definitely we'll get there one day. It takes time. And as you are aware, the global population is rising. The population, the more the population is rising, the more this number of out-of-school children are rising. And there are also issues. The more you have issues of banditry and insecurity issues, you also keep having this number because most of them will not go to school because of the security issues. They might be in IDP.
Well,
but that being said, there are also solutions to address this issue. Even though they are in IDPs, you can also organize some classes, which I believe the NGOs have done remarkably well in this aspect.
Well, Danladi, before we get to that point of the NGOs doing magnificently well, there've also been this part of the conversation that the SDG goals did not put African into consideration before even coming out with some of the goals and agendas that were set. And African cultures, African beliefs, African practices were not even considered. Saying that to say that Africans were not largely consulted before all of this, because Africans have their own formal and informal education. But then, right now, we're now saying we've set goals. Now, this brings me back to where you said parents are supposed to take their children to school. You know that Nigerian, as it stands right now, is also below the poverty line. How many parents can afford 3 quality square meal on a daily basis? This as a factor, let's look at it critically. With all of these economic indices playing out right now, is this not enough to exonerate parents that will say that they want their children to go to the farms with them on school hours? You're going to be having conversation again that the government should start creating marshals or a special force that will look into all of this to ensure that we create a balanced society, not just because of the SDG goal, but for the average African child that we hope to project soon.
Okay, you have asked a very important question. So I'll start by addressing the issue of the SDG you mentioned. Regarding the SDG, I don't think I'm in the right position to answer it because I operate in a totally different atmosphere. I'm in the more of the non-profit sector, solution providers. So I'm not involved in the policies for SDG.
But you operate from the NGO perspective.
NGO perspective,
and that's why I'm bringing it back
exactly.
to you.
So
that's why I said you've been on the field.
I've been on the field.
And you've been able to rub minds with rurals, even on the field.
Definitely.
You've seen things that. So
I'm taking you there. That's why I'm taking you there.
Let's take me there.
So let's go back to the field.
Yes.
I've been to the field and I've been to different rural areas. And I will discuss a live example with you. I've seen parents in rural areas that sell all they have to ensure that their children go to school, right? I've seen children that trek distance and miles in rural areas to go to school. Because why? Even though their parents are not educated, they understand the importance of school. I've interviewed a lot of parents and they told me, oh, I'm not educated, but the best thing that can happen to my child is to ensure he goes to school. One thing is, you talk about the poverty line. Yes, I totally agree with you. The first thing I mentioned that poverty is one of the issues that need to be addressed for out-of-school children. But now, if we have a free primary education, let's say in a rural area, and then there's a school feeding program in that particular rural areas, and the pupils themselves that are supposed to go to school, they are not going to school, they tend to go to farms to help their parents in farm. They just go to take that food to eat. Whereas I agree, some students in rural area actually go to school. The participation rate is high because I have statistics of some rural areas where we have the pre-enrollment and the post-enrollment. If we raise awareness, we carry out a need assessment, and then we carry out also an impact assessment to see how many students have been enrolled. But very important, I agree with you, poverty is an issue. You can provide free education, but if they don't have the infrastructure, it's another issue. If also they don't have the books, it's another issue. It's not about the free education, but it's about the infrastructure like books. For instance, some girls, they don't go to school during their menstrual hygiene because the toilets are not there or they are not comfortable. So I agree with you regarding the issue of poverty. But when it comes to parents themselves, the parents also needs to do more. If the government has provided a platform, the parents must also raise awareness. They have a key role to play. When the child leaves school, he comes back home. And when your child is supposed to study at home and at night he goes around moving, and at the end he fails, who is to be blamed? Is it the government or the parent? It's the parent that have to be blamed because the platform is there. We cannot exonerate poverty. Poverty is serious, and issues like insecurity, lack of infrastructure, because some rural areas that are visited, the schools are far. you have to tread 10, 15 kilometers, which is an issue. So in that issue is understandable. And that is where I'll answer your next question, that NGOs are doing a lot in that aspect. And I've seen new schools being constructed by government in some of those areas to address. But when it comes to the special marshal, I think we have to be very careful when we are going to address the issue of out of school children and the parental or the religious perspective. You have to be extraordinarily careful. Yes, the religious leaders have a key role to play, but awareness is a key. We have to create this awareness. The parents themselves have to understand that it is crucial for them to send their children to school. They have to understand the benefit of going to school. It's not just my son will go to school today and come back, there's nothing. But if a parent understands that if he sends his child to school, the poverty he's passing today will be the theme of the past, definitely he will do something to address it.
That's quite interesting. Now let's look at the issue of government taking signing agreements and also looking at the government's pledging commitment, but sometimes they struggle with implementations. A lot of people will say that the SDG program and the initiative is crawling in Africa. It is not moving. It looks as if it's unachievable. But when you look at this critically, when we don't talk about accountability, it looks as if the goal is not even a goal, it's just a vision that is not realistic. This progress that we're talking about, who should be held accountable for the slow progress of our SDG implementations?
Okay, when it comes to SDG implementations, for instance, we talk about reduction in poverty, zero hunger. It's difficult to achieve those because definitely there will always be poor, there's always be hunger, there's hunger everywhere, so it's difficult. Because of the population, number one, is quite difficult. You can implement a lot of initiatives. You have, for instance, we have over 200 million Nigerians, right? And more than 60% of that 200 million are below the age of 25. They are youthful age. So if you want to start an initiative now for youth, for 60% of 200 million Nigerians, how is it going to? It's going to be difficult. That is where the government alone cannot do it. It's the private sector. A lot of NGOs, their duties is to ensure, even in my own NGO, I ensure that most of my goals align with SDGs. Whatever I'm doing align with sustainable development goals so that we can achieve a common goal globally. Let's take, for example, the issue of out-of-school children that you mentioned, the slow adoption. Yes, there are challenges here and there. You cannot deny the fact. There are policy inconsistency. When there is change of government, there are policies inconsistency. That happens, definitely. When the government has their own policy, another government comes, there are a lot of changes that happen. It causes slow adoption as well. There are also issues that has to do with stakeholders. Stakeholders is people are resistant to change. It's difficult. When you have somebody who is resistant to change, it's very, very difficult to change his mindset, which is crucial. So what do you do in that case? You have to adopt a stakeholder engagement principle. You have to go back and forth, and that takes a while. That takes time. Then you need to conduct a need assessment to find out, okay, why are children in location A not going to school? The reason is there's lack of infrastructure. Then you need to write to government that this place needs school. It takes a while for projects to be approved, budget to be approved, implementation. That alone causes slow adoption. Those are the reasons why you have a bit of slow adoption. Then you look at the resistance of parents that want their children to be trading to generate revenue. How do you change the mindset of that person? How do you change the mindset of somebody who has a religious norm that girls are meant to marry at an early age? It's difficult. Even the Child Right Protection Act is there, but changing those mindsets is difficult. Then let's also look at a normal perspective. Like, let me give you an example, the science and technology. A lot of people believe that science and technology is for men, not for women. But no, I disagree with it because I support STEM education. That stereotype must change. It's similarly, in some region, they believe that girls are not supposed to go to school. They are just supposed to do household chores. Then with that mentality, the girl grow with that mentality and she get married and she give birth to children. She will also send her male children to school and allow the females to carry her house chores at home, or they will help her to fry akara. So that sort of stereotype must change. Behavior change is very, very important and is very, very crucial for us to achieve the SDG goals. Definitely the number is rising. People have different mindset. Different. You are talking about Africa. Africa is a large continent, right? You have different. Nigeria have their own policies. They are implementing their policies. Niger Republic are implementing their policies. It's different. The momentum is totally different. Different countries have the way they approach things differently. Some of the African countries are under junta now, more with military era, whereas we are operating on a democracy ground. So it's different. The way the Western world look at things is different. So it's very, very important. We need to understand the policies are important.
Well, different critics will say that this SDG goal, even for the female child, the girls, is too ambiguous. That even for African current realities, going with the fact that African is still where it is right now in terms of technology, innovation, and other drives that push and sustain the continent. I said that this goal is too ambiguous for Africa. First, do you agree to this? That is the first part of the question. Secondly, a lot of people will say again that NGOs are largely part of the problem. That's why these goals are not achieved and they are not achievable. That instead of NGOs to get to remote communities to educate the girl's child, the NGOs get to this remote community to start tilting these children along religious line, which is at variance with their parents. Again, do you agree with all of these submissions?
I disagree with
All right.
your submission completely. There's nothing that is too ambiguous. For instance, we talk about quality education. What's ambiguous about quality education? There's nothing ambiguous about it. I totally disagree that's ambiguous. Even if you look at the Renew Hope agenda today, there is girl-child education there. There are also frameworks to address the issue of girl-child education. Even if you go to the Ministry of Education, there are frameworks to address the issue of child education today. If you look at the out-of-school children, the Almajiri education, there's also a specific agency that deal with them. That I don't operate in that space, so I don't have much information to you about that. But when it comes to the NGO, I totally disagree with you because I run an NGO and I run NGO in a rural area, and the aim is to enable people to achieve their goals, to give hope to the hopeless. For you to, I have not seen an NGO that goes to tell people on the religious line. That I totally disagree. There might be, but I've not heard it. I've not heard it and I've not seen it. But for most of the NGOs I've seen, their goal is to ensure that every child has access to quality education. Mind you, some of the NGOs are not funded. Some of the NGOs are self-funded NGOs. So these are people who have passion for humanity. They use their wealth and resources to support children in rural areas, to see how children in rural areas can be able to achieve their full potential in life. So I disagree that some NGOs are changing the mindset of children. No, maybe there are that we don't know, but there's ethics in every organization. There's ethics of operation, and there's also networks of NGO. There are all these associations. The moment you heard it, definitely is going to be reported. Right? There's child welfare in almost every state where issues like this are reported. If you look at the issue of orphanage homes, where there are some issues of child trafficking, they are often being reported, and we have been seeing it in news, definitely. But NGOs are meant to provide relief. They are meant to ensure that the SDG goals are being achieved. They are meant to complement government efforts. They are meant to ensure that the people in the rural areas that don't have hope. And that is what we are doing in this atmosphere.
Why you say you disagree? Well, let's even look
I completely disagree.
Let's look at the rising statistics. Just last year, we know that the number rose from, we have about 10.5 million out of school children.
No, you mentioned about NGOs.
I'm coming back to the NGO because we're coming back to that NGO.
Yes.
We have about 10.5 million children
Now
that are out of
million,
school.
yeah.
Now it has risen to 18 million.
Yes.
And 60% of that number are girl child.
Yes.
And when you travel down to places like the interior part of the north, you get to those places. Most female children even tend to run away from NGOs and non-governmental organizations because to them, they will say that these organizations are coming to affect their thinking pattern and not just to come help them to be educated or to enhance their education strategy, but rather they are there to change a certain narrative. But you're saying that you completely disagree that NGOs are not doing that. But you know, like I do know that NGOs are the foot soldiers that drive the SDG goals even to the grassroots. And right now, if we are not achieving what is supposed to be achieved, and we say that the government is providing the platform, the NGOs are the vehicles that are supposed to drive. And the NGOs, the rural dwellers have come out to say, hey, most of us are even scared of even talking to NGOs. That's why we are even scared of the educational system that they are trying to introduce because it is religious driven. You're saying you completely disagree. If you disagree, but the numbers keep rising, who do we channel this blame to?
It's not about blame. If we keep blaming,
of course, somebody needs to be held accountable.
Definitely,
and somebody needs to speak on this, on the numbers that keep rising. That's why we're speaking about NGOs. We're talking about the NGOs and the NGOs as a foot soldier that's supposed to drive the SDG goals. And you're saying you completely disagree. So
I run an NGO.
Who should bear the brunt of this conversation?
I run an NGO.
All right.
And basically, what I do is strictly humanity.
And you have sister colleagues that also run NGOs.
I have sister colleagues that run NGOs. And I've participated in an NGO program that have to do with senior executives in NGOs. And from all the information I heard from them, I've not heard something similar to this. In short, I've seen where a lot of NGOs have taken it to themselves when a girl is forcefully married or when a girl is raped, they take it upon themselves. They use all their resources,
for social media gains. For social media gains.
Not for social media gains.
For social media gains.
No, not for social media
gains.
No, I disagree with you.
All right.
I have fought for a lot of people, not for social. I don't really. You invite me here, fine, but it's not for social media. It's for humanity. I have passion for humanity. If my passion is for humanity, it's not for social media, for those people who are around on Instagram, the rest, whatever they are. But if a girl is raped today, justice must be done. If you pick a girl from the village and you probably brought her to Abuja now, instead of a woman sending her to school, she keeps her at home, she asks her to iron till late in the night, and she beat all the hell out of her. All the body has all wounds and everything. Who is to be blamed? The woman is to be blamed. Who is going to fight for this poor girl? It's the NGO.
Yeah.
Exactly. And they have been doing it. You
said, I agreed with you that the NGO are the foot soldiers.
Exactly, they are the foot soldiers.
Yes,
they have been
of the government, yes.
I give you an example today.
Please go on.
When it comes to religious, you have to be extraordinarily careful.
Yes.
Even in this NGO world. When you discuss about most of them towards religious ideology, well, I don't operate on a religious platform. I operate on a non-profit platform. So if I'm there, if I go to a community, the first people I'll meet is the traditional ruler and also the religious ruler and the youth leaders. And I'll explain to them, okay, this is what I want to do. You have to have a stakeholders engagement. Stakeholders engagement is very, very crucial in any organizations. Before you even carry out the stakeholders engagement, there must be a problem. It's through the need assessment. You have to conduct a need assessment to find out the problem. And the problem now you mentioned is out-of-school children. So you have the problem. Before you start implementing whatever measures, you have to discuss with the stakeholders. There are different stakeholders that you have to meet. It's those like there are different barriers. You have to discuss with them. They have to accept it. Stakeholders engagement is not easy. You have to talk to them back and forth, back and forth. It's not something that you have to go with force. You have to use a kinetic energy to talk to them gradually. They will accept it. Once they accept, the engagement is not once, it's still going to go. Once the stakeholders, such as the religious organization or the traditional rulers, accept it, it's very, very key. These people have a large followers. Whatever they tell their people to do, they will do it. But if you want to go and change the narrative somebody has his own way of religion, you want to go and force him to change it. No, we are not missionaries. We are in a non-profit organization providing humanitarian support. That is why even the church, we also have the faith-based NGOs today, both from the Christian part and from the Muslim part we also have. And they have been working remarkably
so
well.
invariably you're exonerating the NGOs from this particular conversation to say,
well, I speak for myself.
Of course, you
I speak for myself and the people I know.
Table right now, you are a spokesperson for NGOs.
Not NGO, no. I'm not spokesperson for NGOs.
You belong to the non-profit space.
And I will speak.
Well, you've been able to attend. You've attended executive meetings of NGOs,
course, yes.
and you've been there in the NGO space. So we can permit me to say, as an inductive reasoning, to say that you've been there and you own an NGO, so automatically you can speak as an authority when it has to do with NGO conversations.
Now, in my opinion,
yes,
not.
As NGO conversation, in your opinion, you can speak as an authority.
In my opinion, yes. In my opinion.
All right.
I'm not speaking on behalf of other NGOs.
All right.
Because we have a lot of NGOs. So I speak in my opinion. I've been to the field. I've seen what is happening in the field. It's very important. And I have to report.
So what you've seen in the field is that what you've seen in the field so far is that this old narrative that the girl child, the increase in out-of-school children from 10.5 million last year to about 18 million.
No,
plus.
that's not.
Hold on. From 10.5 million last year, about 60% of this affecting the girl child. And you're saying that this is largely tied to parents, that the NGOs are not.
No.
All right, let me get you correctly in that case. When we put the words in your mouth. Let me get you
when we started this conversation,
you identified the root cause. Identified security, poverty, and what have you. But I'll give you another angle to the story right now. That a lot of people will say that the NGOs are also part of the problem.
Which NGOs? Can you name those NGOs?
It's not my position to name the NGOs,
exactly.
But then these NGOs are the driving force. Can we say at this point in time that the NGOs are not part of the problem?
In the non-profit space, you have to operate with integrity. Transparency is key in everything. So whatever I will say here is based on facts. I have to be fact-based with my conversation with you, right? If I've been to Garki community and this is what I see in Garki community, I should be able to report exactly the same thing, the same data that I've seen. You talk about the NGO that are changing the mindset of some young girls, and I have never heard that, and I've never seen that. Maybe it might have existed somewhere, or maybe some people are doing it. I cannot totally exonerate them, but in my own opinion, and from my own NGO perspective, right, from the way I work, I have never seen it. It might have existed somewhere, I don't know. So that's why I say I speak on my own and in my own perspective, not from the other broader NGOs, because I'm not a spokesman for any NGO, only for my own NGO.
All right, thank you for that clarity, even on that. So let's look at these all girl out of school children right now, even for the Nigerian girl child. Since you're not there speaking for NGOs, I guess we have to bring all the NGOs in Nigeria to this table for them to also state their own position in this. But if you identify one priority area that could create the fastest impact for the girl child education in Africa, what would that be?
Very important is about digital literacy. Start it early. There are priority areas, but there are core areas I will focus when it comes to the non-profit sector. The first area of focus is to ensure that I'll have a target group, because you can't start all. You will focus on a particular area. And what I'll do, I will first focus on digital literacy, because the world is moving toward digitalization. Even the WAEC we are writing today and JAM is all digital now. So first, you need to expose these young girls at an early age. First, before that aspect, I have to do what they call need assessment to find out what problems they have. What do they have? What issues is affecting the girl child from going to school in that community? Based on that, I would look at the priority area. If it is the issue of distance from school or lack of infrastructure, particularly we will present a proposal. We'll try to develop a small learning center, either using the church or using the mosques or using a community town hall where we can be teaching them every evening. We can teach them digital skill and digital literacy. But most importantly, in terms of girl child, what is priority is if a girl child doesn't go to school because of menstrual hygiene, the most important is to provide her with the menstrual hygiene part and to provide them with clean sanitary water and toilet system and see if they don't go to school. So you carry out the need assessment, you find out the problem, you try to address the problem, and then you carry out an impact assessment to see whether the strategy you have put in place is working or not. If it is not working, then you have to come back and reassess it again and start all over again. And very, very crucial, the stakeholders must buy in to your own ideas and to your own programs. You have to engage them. It has to be something that will be continuously engagement. You have to engage them to make them understand the importance of girl-child education, the importance of sending children to school, because mind you, most of them are not educated. Most of them in the rural area, they are not educated. So you need to create this awareness for them to understand the benefit of education. For them to, but it's not going to be a day job, it's not going to be a month. Sometimes it can take a year. You have to be engaging them, you have to bring people who will talk to them, people so that they can buy. The moment they buy into that idea, your problem is solved because they have large followerships. They can be able to say, oh, I'm making an announcement. Anybody in this village that doesn't send his child to school will pay a fine or he will be prosecuted in one way or the other. And the community listen to them, because they are at the grassroots. The government are far from them. So the community leaders have a role to play. It's very, very crucial. But when it comes to the issue of security, it's something that is a bit dicey and it's a bit difficult because in the non-profit space, we don't bear arms to fight for security to ensure that peace. But we can be able to create awareness on peace summit, and it's not my core area actually, but there are NGOs that deal with peace advocacy to bring a lasting solution of peace in a particular organization. And when there is peace, people will be able to go to farm, people will be able to go to school. And very important, it's not about the parents themselves, oh, you keep blaming. The men that are marrying these underage girls, they need to raise awareness. There must be a law in place to punish these people that are marrying young and underage girls. It's very, very important because it's not all about the parents themselves, but the men themselves that just decide to go and pick a young girl to marry her. No, this must stop. It must stop. We have to put things in place. Most likely it's because of poverty, because they believe if he marry her, he's going to provide their financial needs.
And you say we don't need a marshal to implement all of this.
Of course, I mentioned marshal at the beginning.
So if you're saying at this point in time, I'm asking.
Yes.
As we begin to wrap up in the studio right now, looking at everything you said right now,
yes,
are we ready to even talk about SDG goals in Nigeria? Are we ready to address the concern that has to do with the girl child? Are we ready as a people to chart a new course for the average African girl child as a people as it stands right now?
Okay, I will speak. In my own opinion, I strongly believe that there is a political will and we are ready. But it takes time. It's not something that will just happen.
You've given us all the indices, or you've told us all the things that we need right now to engage people.
Exactly.
But looking at the realities of Africa, not just Nigeria, are we ready to help the girl child and return them back to the classroom? Are we ready as a people?
I will speak on my opinion because I can't speak on someone that is far beyond.
Let's take it from a general assessment.
From my own assessment, I believe that from the government part, efforts have been made. Yes, they are making significant efforts to address the issue of out-of-school children. You have to commend them. They are doing a lot. From the charity organization, the CSOs, they are also making their own efforts. And also globally. That is why the Day of International Girl Child will be celebrated next week on the 11th to raise awareness. That simply means the issue of girl child is an important
You
issue.
mean the celebration of girl child in, in cities?
No,
and not in rural communities.
I'm going to rural communities. I'm inviting you.
You are just.
I'm inviting you.
No, but we are just looking at it because most of the enlightenment campaign on the girl child enlightenment are usually in the metropolitan cities. Because if you get to places like Biliri, Katingo, if you get to deep down Gombe, enter into Yola, get to Taraba, enter the interior part of Taraba, you ask an average girl child if she's being celebrated. If you're celebrating it on that path and that pedestal, of course I can come for that.
Well, I'm going to invite you because my celebration is going to be in rural area.
All right.
Definitely. On the 11th, I'm going to choose one. On the 10th, I'm going to celebrate in one rural area in southern Kaduna. And on the 11th, I'm going to celebrate in one of the remote areas in FCT.
All right, we'll look forward to that particular invite because I would like to honor that invite.
Definitely.
To see how the girl child is being celebrated and how they also react to the celebration. And
because that celebration, I'm going to invite the parents that day and also the religious organization because we have a key role to play. Everyone has his own core responsibilities to ensure that a girl child or a boy child is returned back to classroom. It's my vision to see that every child in Africa has access to quality education in the next 10 years. That is my own vision, and I believe it's achievable.
Well, Caleb Danladi, if we leave you, you keep going through round and round and all around this conversation, but then I've been signaled right now that it's time for us to go. I want to say thank you so much for finding out time to be with us here on Korero.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, viewers, this is how far we can go tonight here on Korero. Don't forget that you can join the conversation on our various social media handle currently showing on your screen. And you can also download the Rapid TV app from your Android and iOS devices to keep track of our broadcast. I am Godwin Sunday. Always remember that peace and unity are the pathways to progress. Till I come your way again, it's bye for now.